What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I am still coming at you from outside the Millennium Building at the Prime Inc. Terminal in Springfield, Missouri. And I kind of wanted to talk to people that are going through PSD and TNT training right now. You know, I see a lot of comments on Facebook where people are struggling, or maybe they've sent me a message on one of my videos. And you know, I don't really talk about it all that much, but I've documented my journey with Prime Inc. from before I actually came to Prime Inc. So, you know, a lot of people that are watching me now never went back and watched those old videos and watched some of the struggles that I went through, not only in PSD training, but TNT training as well. And, you know, if you're going through some struggles in PSD or TNT training, just stick with the grind. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't skip the struggle. Sometimes the struggle is what makes the success so good. So, you know, just to kind of go back to what happened to me in PSD training, you know, when I was in PSD training, I did my training at the Salt Lake City terminal, and that's basically just pad training. And you had a little bit of time to go out every now and then with a group of people driving, but not a whole lot of driving. And when I took my CDL exam, I failed the driving portion of it, which was totally unexpected, because at the time I was going through, you know, it was almost like a given that I was going to trifecta. And I got caught at a yellow light and failed because of that. And, you know, sometimes I see people that don't trifecta and they feel like they're all dejected and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you're feeling dejected because you need the money or want the money, that's one thing. But once you get your CDL, not one time has anybody at a truck stop, shipper, receiver, nobody's asked me if I trifected out here in the real world. So, you know, I felt so bad that I failed I didn't trifecta on my CDL exam, that I gave the 3 instructors their $50 gift cards before I left the terminal, once I did get my CDL. So that's one time that I failed during my training. You know, I see a lot of people that are talking about being with a bad trainer and all that kind of stuff, and me too. I had a bad first trainer, and I'm one of those people that had a bad trainer, and then I got with the second trainer, and things could not have been better. You know, when I was training, you know, my first student was a trainer that had to get off his first trainer's truck, and I took him on, and we completed that training with, I don't even think we had an argument the entire time that had anything to do with driving. And then the one little argument we had wasn't really, you know, it wasn't really an argument. But so there is life after having a bad trainer. You just have to go through the proper channels to get that next trainer. So, you know, if you're with the bad trainer, just follow through the proper channels and get another trainer. When I was with my first TNT trainer, keep in mind that I did all my training on the pad. I really wasn't familiar with how to use Jake brakes and all that kind of stuff. But my either second or third drive shift, I am driving through West Virginia into Pennsylvania, and it was at night and it was raining. And I was very unfamiliar with how the truck would handle and things like that. And I actually gave up in the middle of a drive shift. I just could not take it anymore. My anxiety level was at a 10, and I almost quit trucking at that moment. You know, I pulled into a rest area. I didn't even know how to park in one of them angled spots. I just pulled in as close as I could and told my first trainer that I just can't drive anymore. And I really had to think if I was even going to be able to do this job at that point. I mean, if you'd have asked me within 5 hours of when I pulled that truck over, I probably would have thought that I was going to quit at that point. And I had to think about it, and the way I rationalized that with myself was, if these other trucks out here are holding the road, then my equipment should be as good or better than anybody else's out here. So I just need, for lack of a better phrase, I just need to let it rip. Either I'm going to quit now, or I'm going to give them a reason for me to quit. Like, I put it in the side of the mountain, but I cannot be afraid to drive this truck. And it probably took me a good, I would say it probably took me a good week to get comfortable driving that truck. And for that entire week, we were all, actually, it was shortly thereafter that I ended up getting off my first trainer's truck. And I've never really got into that, but it was not only, it was on a whole bunch of different levels, on a training level, on a hygiene level, on a disrespectful level. It was all these different levels. So soon after that, I got brought back to the terminal, and then me and my second trainer's next load was headed back to the same direction. So I probably spent that next few drive shifts up in the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, upstate New York area, New Jersey, all that stuff. So it really took me about 5 of those drive shifts for me to become comfortable enough to where I actually felt it was a job that I could do. And then, you know, soon thereafter, I was just kind of ripping and running through it, and you know, finally got comfortable with it. You know, so I saw a Facebook post a while back, and somebody had they'd said something like they were thinking the same thing I was thinking, like they might possibly want to quit, that they don't feel like they can handle it. As a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody, and they did have a student quit because of that. And I thought about that when I was training, and I was wondering, should that be one of the first few drives that I go, you know, have my student drive through? And I really don't know the right answer to that, but just keep that in the back of your mind. You're not going to feel comfortable driving these trucks when you first get in them. As a matter of fact, I think for maybe the first month, I never felt like I was entirely in control of the truck. You know? But one thing that I thought was one of the best moves I made was, once I knew, because going into training, I said, okay, I'm going to do more than my 30,000 miles because I really want to know what I'm doing before I get out on my own. Then I got my first trainer, and I was like, all right, well, let me, you know, once I got past my little thinking I was going to quit that night, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just do these 30,000 miles and just get it over with, because I can't stay with this guy. I got with my second trainer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to stay with him. He came and got me in late April of 2019, and I stayed on his truck until mid-November. And the reason I stayed on his truck, you know, I stayed on longer than was necessary, but I knew I was going to end up going lease, and I wanted to start my business at the beginning of a year. So I figured that this would give me another winter, or actually a full winter, and then allow me to start leasing in January, which he ended up leaving to go do some personal endeavors, so I ended up upgrading in December of that year. But chances are, if you're just coming into training, you may have that feeling like, you know what, can I do this? You know, you might feel uncomfortable with all this driving and stuff like that, and just realize that you're not the first person that's going through this. And this is coming from somebody that now says that this job is easier than any job I've ever done in my life. But did you ask me back then what I would have thought about this job? As a matter of fact, I have videos that are talking about all this stuff. I gained so much respect for truck drivers when I first got out on the road, because I just felt like not that it's hard for me to explain it, but I just understand that it might be a little hard for you at first, and if this is something that you want, you can't skip the struggle. Just keep your head down and do what you got to do. But anyway, it just makes me feel bad when I see people that are beating themselves up about not feeling comfortable driving in the mountains, or they didn't get their trifecta, or they're having problems backing. I spoke about my trainer and his backing and all that kind of stuff, and me and my trainer back in two totally different ways. He used to be a yard dog, so he backs a totally different way than I do. And I think that once you upgrade is kind of when you kind of learn the way you want to back. So if I'm going to look at how my trainer backed, my trainer would back more like a yard dog, in that I think he's set up a little bit further out than I do, where I might set up a little bit closer to the spot that I'm going to. And he would always go to the end of a row if he was looking at a spot that was on his blind side, where if I had enough room to make a U-turn in front of that spot, I would do that and then just kind of back in from there. But your trainer is just there to be a guide and show you the basics of it. You're going to develop your own personal way on how you back, and there's a bunch of different ways to back, and I know that's a totally different thing, but you can't skip the struggle. If you feel like you're being overwhelmed, you're not the first person that's going through it. I would suspect that probably 80% of the people that come out here and first get into truck driving have anxiety to some level or another, whether it be all the time or in certain situations. So anyway, just want to let you guys know that I went through it. If you're having problems either with your trainer, you're anxious when you're driving in certain situations, you failed your CDL test the first time, or CDLs as some people call them, you're not the first person that did it. And like I said, once you get past all this, nobody's going to be sitting there asking how you did. Did you trifecta? Prime's the only person that calls it a trifecta anyway. So anyway, enough about that. I want to thank you guys for stopping by No Hippie Trucking Transportation. I appreciate it. You can't skip the struggle. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.